to Sports Spectrum, the sports and faith podcast that brings Jesus back into the conversation. Here's your host, Jason Romano.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I am Jason Romano. Our Sports Spectrum website is sportspectrum.com, and our email address is jason@sportspectrum.com. jason@sportspectrum.com. Today we feature a conversation, again, with all that's going on in the world with the pandemic and the coronavirus outbreak. You know, God has been providing us with some really unique stories over the past week or so of people of faith living out their calling in the sports world, but doing it for God and being able to kind of walk through the craziness that is the coronavirus outbreak that we're all going through. And we had Aaron Kraft on a couple days ago. And Aaron, of course, played at Ohio State and is now a professional basketball player in Italy, where this outbreak has hit very hard. And today, we bring to you a conversation with Korey Harris. He is an assistant basketball coach for the Chinese Basketball Association's Beijing Royal Fighters. Now, that team's head coach is a name you might recognize, Stephon Marbury, the All-Star NBA point guard, who's now the head coach there. And Korey is his assistant coach. Now, Korey's been in China since August of 2018, and he was hired by Stephon Marbury in September of 2019. He's been in quarantine and isolation in his China hotel room since January. And the good news, and we'll talk about it, is that the CBA, the Chinese Basketball Association, is resuming play very soon. The CBA, in case you didn't know, is widely regarded as the preeminent professional men's basketball league in Asia. A lot of guys go there from the States, and a lot of guys from there have played in the NBA, including Yao Ming and others. Korey Harris joins us from China today on the show to tell us about all that's taken place over the past few months with the outbreak, with staying connected to God, with how he's coping with this, and trying to get back to some normalcy as a basketball coach. Take a listen to Korey Harris joining us here today on Sports Spectrum. Korey Harris, welcome to Sports Spectrum.
Man, thank you so much for having me, Jason. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you being here. You're joining us from Beijing in China, and currently you're on the back end of what a lot of us here in the United States are just kind of going through over the last week or so, last couple of weeks. We're taping this interview so people know Tuesday, March 24th. How are things over there for you right now in Beijing?
Honestly, I'm torn because, like you said, you know, there's a lot going on in the world, and it's very unfortunate, you know, that we're seeing people be affected by something that we really can't control, right? It's a little above us at this point. But as far as I'm concerned as an individual, it's been a blessing in the midst of the chaos here. Like you alluded to earlier, I've been here in Beijing for a while, and I actually made the decision to remain here even when the outbreak was very strong still in China. So I've been protected, and I'm thankful for that. But just grinding, staying focused on the team, and trying to do my part.
You mentioned that decision to stay. Can you take us back to when you really had to make that decision and kind of the thought process and not coming back to America? I know you're from Atlanta, and instead choosing to stay in China.
Sure. Yeah. So January 21st or 22nd was like the midway point for us. You know, Chinese New Year is a really big holiday here in the country of China. You know, everyone makes a pilgrimage back to their hometown, you know, and the entire country kind of shuts down, so to speak. So we just played a big rivalry game against the Beijing Ducks, and, you know, we won that game in a thrilling fashion. And so everyone was feeling great. And a lot of the foreign players, you know, as well as the staff, we were all talking about, you know, our travels, what do we got planned to do? And so I decided I was just going to, you know, book it back to the States, go and spend a few days, you know, with my girlfriend, just try to decompress for a few days because we had to be right back here before January 27th. So fast forward, you know, a few days, I'm preparing my mind to come back, and I look down at my phone and I see within our team's group chat that, you know, they're reporting the outbreak, which we had already heard was going on in Wuhan, was increasingly, you know, it was affecting a lot of people. And so the CBA basically, told everyone that they didn't have to be back. They wouldn't be fined, because there were some penalties if we weren't back in time. And so, basically the team was waiving that and say, if you wanted to stay with your family for an extra week, you were free to do so. But, we should be good after that week. Well, so, in my mind, I didn't really think too much of coming back at the time, but I still had to, of course, consult with my girl and just do some prayer about it, because it's still a big step. And, a virus is not something to play around with. So after praying and just kind of going to sleep on it, I woke up the next day and the reports were increasingly bad. They're just getting worse and worse. Yeah. And the peace of God just kind of came over me. And I just felt like, okay, I don't know why I feel like I need to go back, but this is what I'm feeling. And so I made the decision to come back. Of course, everything here was like quarantine. It was like a ghost town, of course, in the airport in the city of Beijing. Once I arrived, you didn't really see any traffic or anything like that. And the hotel I was in was actually empty. But the day I came back, I ran into one of, our star players, and he was actually about to leave to go back to his hometown in Shanghai. And he said the only reason why he was going to leave is because the team GM and the rest of the staff had told him that I wasn't there. Like there was going to be no one to work him out until practice resumed. So when we bumped into each other, it was like, oh man, we're good. Like all I need is you. All you need is me. I'm good with one player. So we kind of rocked out for a month. And then, the rest of the Chinese players came back 3.5 weeks ago. And, now I'm kind of holding things down until, the rest of the team gets back. And our head coach, of course, like you said, he's returning soon. So it's been a blessing just to have the chance to step up and be prepared and stay mentally sharp. And I don't see this as an accident, me being here at this time.
I'm going to ask you said your head coach, of course, Stephon Marbury. I'll ask you about him in a second, but you're in Beijing. Where is that in conjunction to Wuhan and where this virus kind of initiated?
Yeah, so Wuhan isn't that close. China is so vast, so large. Yeah. I would have to almost say, like, if you caught a flight, from like Cali to, where I'm from, Atlanta, Georgia, that type of, I guess, picture in your mind can help you understand the distance. But, these things jump, all it takes is one person to be infected, and then they get on a flight. They don't know they're infected, or, and we travel quite a lot during the season. Sometimes I would wake up and not even know what city I was in. So, I count it all just it's good fortune, it's blessings, whatever you want to call it, that no one from our team or any other team that we played against, was infected, because you never know, right? So Wuhan is not close, but at the same time, think about it, it's in America now. It's in Italy, it's in Australia, it's in, different places, and they're not at all close to Wuhan. So
true. That's a very good point. Korey Harris is our guest here on Sports Spectrum, assistant basketball coach for the Chinese Basketball Association's Beijing Royal Fighters. So late January, when basketball is kind of shut down for you guys, and that's kind of 2 months before where we are right now in America as we tape this in late March, what happens? Is it the same kind of thing that happened with us, where you guys are kind of isolated into your hotel? I assume you're staying in a hotel room and not like an apartment, so you're kind of isolated in your hotel room for the last couple months. Has that kind of been the case?
Yeah, so we lived in a hotel throughout the first half of the regular season, and that was so that obviously we could travel as a unit and things would be a lot easier for us to manage. And I guess in America with the NBA, guys, if they live in a certain city, or they play in a city, they might have apartments. Maybe rookie deals include like housing for guys who are just entering the league, so to speak. So sure, it's different cases for different folks. But here, most teams, they keep all their guys in a hotel. So when I came back, I just returned, to that same hotel, and that's where I was for the month. But we're actually staying in our training facility where we do all of our preseason stuff right now, and it's just on the opposite side of Beijing, but it's quite nice. The quarantine situations for Americans who, have returned to China as of like maybe the last 2-3 weeks it's unpredictable. Like, some of our staff is actually staying in like a like Holiday Inns or, different brands of hotels. And, because they're not from here, they don't really have a bearing of where they are, so it's a bit of a shock for some people. For me, I've been here, like you said, since 2018, and my living situation wasn't the same. So, this is like the Ritz to me. But, for other people, to get off a plane and then go to some random hotel and then you don't know where anyone is that, you're affiliated with, and they're just kind of like telling you, stay in this room, you got meals, of course they're taking care of you, but you just don't know, right? You don't really know what's going to happen. It can be a little bit of a scare. So I talk with our guys, every day, our American players. I try to reach out to, like Coach Jay Humphreys. He played in the NBA as well.
Sure.
He's in the same draft class as Jordan. I reach out to him, just to make sure that their mental is right, because we're all people at the end of the day. So that's what's important.
So thinking about where we are in America, where it was about 2 weeks ago that the NBA suspended, and that was suspended league play, and that was sort of the trigger, I think, for not just sports, but in a lot of ways for everything in America to kind of start to shut down.
Right.
When the NBA shuts down, that just was eye-opening for everybody, and suddenly it was, we have to take this thing pretty seriously. Not that we weren't, but it was affecting in a larger scale, and now it's kind of gotten crazy the last couple of weeks. Is that the same kind of thing that happened in China with you, where it was, okay, the CBA is shutting down, suspending for a couple months, and it kind of nosedived into everything else being shut down? Can you describe a little bit about the culture and where you were and what that was like?
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on like how things went with the NBA, but I think people have to understand, first of all, just the culture and how different it is in a place like China as comparison to America. Here, the perspective and the view of the average Chinese person, whether man or woman, young or old, is about community. It's about the group. It's collectivism, right? So for them here, once they heard what was going on in Wuhan, and then the government decided that this was no longer just like a contained, type of thing, or like a point of danger just for one area or city.
Yeah.
Then it was like a countrywide response, and it didn't take, any convincing. There was no, well, you still got kids on spring break, and down in Florida, or, people are still clubbing, and we got to convince folks to, follow this social distancing type theory. No, like, this is what it is. We don't want this to spread. This is for your protection. And the people trust the government. Like, there are times where I speak to some of the translators and the staff on my team, and they keep it real with me. They say, we all get upset at the fact that we have to grow up under, what you guys call communism, where we don't have the same freedoms or we don't have the same rights to be as individualistic as you understand, right? They see us and they like, our culture as far as who you get to be and how you can express yourself. But the one thing they said to me that hit me the most was, but in times of danger, we love our government because our government never fails us. Our government understands at least what it takes to make sure that we can see another day. And, they asked me, they looked me in my eye. It was two of the translators, and they said, what is your freedom without life? And, they didn't let me go to the next thought until I answered it. They were like, tell us, what is your freedom without life? And said, we can tell you, that we might not have your freedoms, but at least we have life. And we know that our life is, assured, that the government is going to do whatever it takes to preserve it. And so, there's a definite, there's a need for us to learn in times of crisis from other people who maybe are handling it, a little different. But no, the CBA was not the tipping point for this country. Maybe it opened the eyes of the everyday, fan of basketball or something like that in China. Like, oh my God, they shut down the CBA. But there were so many other things that were already kind of falling in suit, restaurants, businesses, It's completely different culture here.
Did you see the same thing as far as what we're seeing with just nobody on the streets? Were you even able to allowed to go out, to go shopping, to do the things that you needed to do just to survive?
Oh yeah, Yeah, for sure. Like I said, I was on a connecting flight from Detroit back to Beijing the day Kobe Bryant died. So, when I landed, of course, it was only like 5 or 6 people on the plane. Like I can remember that. And walking through the airport and just thinking like, oh my God, like are soldiers going to come around the corner and like grab me, or am I going to get thrown into a quarantine? My mind was kind of racing, but like I said, I had an inner peace. So I just kind of kept moving, right foot, left foot. And outside, you didn't see anyone. There were no cars. I probably had 3 people outside of just those that flew into Beijing with me that were like anywhere around me. Like, so when I was waiting on a taxi from the, airport back to the hotel, no one. And each day through my quarantine, I would, look out the window, try to count how many buses I saw, how many cars I saw. And yeah, I would go outside or go shopping, at the grocery store. But I quickly learned that, there was a rule that had been instated in Wuhan, and it was basically understood throughout the rest of the country. 1 person per family or per household, was allowed to go to the market and shop for each family unit.
Right. You didn't see a group of people going.
Exactly. This whole social distancing type thing that they're working on in America is like, it's a conversation. Here it's just an understanding. Like there was no need to break up any groups or, watch an Instagram or Twitter video and people comment under and say like, what are these kids doing? Don't they know this stuff is going? Like, you just didn't see it. There was no convincing that was needed. So I did respect that. I didn't quite understand it because, of course, I'm American. So at first I'm like, nah, I'm going to go to the mall. I want to go to the store. Why are they closed? How many cases do we even have here? Like, there's nobody sick. What are we worried for? But, over time, you begin to strip away those. It's not like you're not American anymore, but you're stripping away that dogmatic, just stubborn, like, well, wherever I go, they're going to have to bow to my ideals. I had to lose all that, and it started with my first year in China. So it was a little easier for me to, adapt this time because I kind of knew what to expect.
Did the people around where you are go crazy and start buying toilet paper like it was going out of style? Because Korey, I don't know what's going on in America, but we are down on the toilet paper, bro, and I don't get it.
Oh man, no, people didn't go crazy and start buying, too much stuff. Wuhan is a different story, and so I try not to just say like all of China. Like,
sure,
if I
where you
I
are.
apologize. Sure, yeah. I don't want to make sweeping statements when I don't have 100% experience, but Wuhan was ground zero. So I'm pretty sure, people were panicking, or not necessarily panicking, but just trying to make sure that they had enough to survive and do whatever they needed to do. But here in Beijing, I just knew you were going to have a mask. Like I went to dinner last night with, some people from our team, and we were walking into, it was kind of like a building that shared a hotel as well as like a chain of restaurants on the top floor. And so we go in, and he's not even a security guard. He just might be like a bellhop, but he saw that one of the people in our party didn't have a mask on. And he was lit. Like he like, I can't understand him, but I could read his body language. Like, what are you doing? You're not going in there, and so they basically came down with a box of masks, gave him one for free. We got the hand sanitizer going. So, if people want to call that type of stuff like a reaction or a panic, I would say, well, that's the highest amount of panic I've seen. But, nothing crazy at the stores. I could get everything I wanted. It was fine.
I mean, I think this is going to be a new normal in the world, maybe. I mean, I just said to my wife kind of jokingly last night, I said, I don't think people are going to shake hands anymore. And I think we eventually will, but it's going to be a second thought. Do I want to shake hands with this person, or do I just give them a fist bump or an elbow bump and just kind of call it a day? That could change. Have you seen that a little bit in China, even just in the past couple months, on how people greet each other, or not really?
Well, like I said, you have to understand the culture. So the Chinese culture is not a very like touchy type culture anyway.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
The Eastern Hemisphere is so different from the West. And then once you get into the East, country by country, region by region is vastly different as well. So, in Italy or France, you might get 2 kisses on the cheek. But in China, I remember trying to reach out my hand to like dap people up or, do whatever. And they would look at my hand like, what's that? You know, like they just didn't get it.
Yeah.
You know, but after some time, they just realized like, oh, he's the homie. Like he's my brother. He's cool. So then they just try to meet you in the middle. But I mean, no, me and my guys on the team, you know, we're fist bumping, chest bumping, you know, still slapping high five and stuff. But, you know, I am mindful when I go outside. I was telling another player that I worked with, I said, you know, you got to remember America is one of the newest countries in the world. It probably is the newest country.
Sure.
You know, like we haven't been around 1,000 years yet. Yeah. So if you just look at our history, we've never dealt with any type of, you know, immediate or intense pandemic like this. We haven't even been invaded, really. You know, you got Pearl Harbor and other things like that, you know, Civil War or, you know, the 9/11, but we haven't even had a war on our own ground, you know, our own soil, you know, from another country just seeking out to harm us. So we got so many firsts and we have so many things that we're not handling well. But if you look at it from that perspective, rather than just being mad at everything, we actually are handling it well, you know, because we're not just going so insane that, you know, buildings are burning down or, you know, we're almost killing each other, you know, over toilet paper. Yeah, we do look embarrassing. You know, I hear Chinese people laugh at us, you know, that's a fact. Like they ask me every day before practice, what are you doing? What is your president doing? Or why toilet paper? You know, they just want to know. They're curious. But, you know, I would say if you made China hit the reset button and they were only, you know, 500-600 years old, they would look crazy too. So, you know, it just is what it is.
Korey Harris is joining us here on Sports Spectrum. We talked about the CBA. So here we are. It's late March. We're taping this March 24th. The CBA, Chinese Basketball Association, is reinstated. You're going to be, or you are practicing right now, and games resume April 15th. So what was that like to find out that news and know that you're back playing ball? And, you know, April 15th for us in America, you know, we start this, you know, a couple months ago. That gives us hope, I think, that maybe by the end of May, we might be able to resume the NBA. But tell us about kind of just knowing your job is back in the fold as far as games and being able to resume this league.
Oh, man, pure joy. I can't explain it, you know, in any other phrasing or anything less than that, because, you know, for me, I'm a young coach, right? I've been, you know, working in the basketball industry for over 10 years, but I've never been on a staff, you know, for a pro team until this year. So I'm all about the work. I'm all about, you know, coming in every day and trying to do my job. And so if you tell me, hey, you know, you get to basically just get a check and, you know, sit at home until this thing blows over, to the 99% of people out there, it's like, oh, okay, you know, it sounds good. Right. But to me, like, my mind just doesn't really work like that. Like, I get it, you know, who wouldn't want, you know, I guess, quote unquote, free money. But to me, like, to be so young and so new to the game, like, every day is a chance for me to, like, not only prove myself, but to just gain experience, gain confidence, learn. And when they were saying we might not come back, I was like, it hurt, man. I'm thinking of all the practices I was going to miss, all the games that we weren't going to get to play. And, like, we're in playoff contention. So, you know, the chance to recreate chemistry and momentum with a new team, I know just from when I was an athlete, like, that's very hard to do. You only have, you know, one chance in life a lot of times to be great. And then that chance is even slimmer to be a champion, where you're, like, better than other people who are great as well. So, you know, for us to go from a team who was slated last in the CBA last year to now we're, like, tied for 6th, I think. And, you know, we still have a handful of games to play and can make a run at this thing. I tell my players every day, like, you are in the middle of history. Like, wherever your mind is, if it's not here on this court, like, you need to fix that. Like, your feet are in the middle of history. Like, we're the only league going right now. You know what I mean? And we have a chance to basically play against some other teams who may have been formidable, but we might catch them sleeping now, because who knows what's going on within their organization because of this, you know, this virus. So I'm like, this is an opportunity. I just kind of always look at things that way. Like, how can I react to this in a way that's going to make me stronger? And so staying at home would have been great to reconnect with family and friends. But, man, I'm not that type of guy I don't look forward to breaks. I don't know how to vacation. I've not really done it before, you know, so I'm just like, man, I only have this chance once. I don't even really know what I'm going to do next year. Like, I don't know if I'm going to re-sign. It's not in my hands. You know, the team controls that. So I always just think about now, like, what am I doing? So pure joy, man, pure joy.
Korey, tell everybody how the league's going to function, at least initially, without fans, obviously, and the uniqueness of how they're going to be playing the games.
So the league will be split between two cities, and they made that decision to ensure the safety, you know, of the players, the teams, the staff members, because if anyone who's ever competed in professional sports, even college sports, you understand how much you have to travel throughout the course of a season. But of course, in professional sports, it's crazy because all the back-to-backs, the turnarounds, the early morning flights, the late flights, long bus rides, checking in and out of hotels. That's a lot of coming into contact with germs and potential, you know, opportunities to get the virus. So it'll be split between Dongguan, which is one of the host cities, and Qingdao, which is another host city. And their plans is to have the 10 teams in Dongguan, of course, stay in like a large hotel, you know, where it's just us. Like, we're basically buying out, you know, that facility so that, we cut down on the risk. And then, you know, the other 10 teams will be in another hotel in Qingdao. And so our schedule for the next, I think it's 18 days that they'll give us after April 15th to complete 13 games. Our schedule will be based on the teams that we still have remaining on our schedule from the regular season that we didn't finish. And so, you know, you'll play that out. It's going to be grueling. Like I said, 13 and 18 is wild. Like, that's like 70s, 80s, 90s NBA, you know, before the collective bargaining agreement and all that stuff. So, again, what a great opportunity. You know, young guys coming out of the woodwork and making a name for themselves, or teams who maybe just figured out a way to stay prepared, and guys who stayed in shape becoming unlikely heroes, right? And then right after those 18 days, you know, we're going into a playoff. They haven't announced how the playoff will be. We don't know if it's going to be some type of, like, you know, Euro-style tournament, or if it's going to just be the regular format that's kind of like the NBA one, you know, where you got your 1 seed and 8 seed, and, you know, you play a series of 5 games or 7 games. But there will be crowned a champion, and that's what we're chasing. So, and
no fans, obviously. So you're all playing in one stadium and no fans at all, right?
Yep. So, you know, I found it funny when LeBron, and this is no shot at him or any other, you know, NBA guys, but I found it funny when they said, you know, man, heck no, we're not playing in front of, you know, an arena with just chairs, you know, or we're going to play in facilities with no fans. We do it for the fans. I get that. I understand what they're saying. But when I was a kid, I didn't play for fans. You know, I played because I love the game. And so I feel like there's enough incentive with how much you're getting paid, the fact that you're doing what you love every day still, and you are still playing in front of fans, so to speak. Like, you're on television. All of our games will be aired on CCTV5. You know, that's like the ESPN of China. And what a better time to play when, you know, everyone's butts are on the couch, in chairs. They can't go anywhere. They're quarantined, or, you know, they're not working at the time because just their job is, you know, shut down, or the school is closed. So I don't know. I think America and the NBA will probably take a page out of China's book, you know, sometime soon, as long as the outbreak doesn't become something where it's like just so dangerous that, you know, you can't even leave your home. I think leagues will see that this is a doable thing. Now, of course, you still run the risk of players getting it, and then if someone has it, then now everyone's in close proximity. But if you can ensure that, you know, initial move to get everybody in a safe location and test everyone beforehand, man, you got yourself a good situation, you know, and a chance to bring hope. I think basketball it can bring hope to people. It can give them something to look forward to, something to do. You know, it's productive. It's not, we got so much negativity in the world. There's negativity on social media sites, just like there is positivity. So if you can get them to kind of tune out of all that back and forth and then just watch one thing, man, that would be great.
Your head coach is Stephon Marbury, who basketball fans certainly know that name, and he's been in quarantine now for the last few weeks. What's his status, and how's he doing as far as coming back to, you know, coach the team?
Man, Steph is good. One thing I can say about Steph is he's always going to be all right. He's going to make sure that he's in high spirits. Like, I was watching his Instagram live today, And I was literally laughing, like almost to the point of tears. Like, he's a character. So, it's fun to work with him, learn from him. He just knows so much about the game. But even from where he is in his apartment, he's still the heartbeat, and his thumbprint is on the team. So, like I said, he'll be with us in a few days. And he's been great. He got tested right when he got off the plane. And it looked like a painful experience. But, he's done his due diligence, and we can't wait to have him back.
That's good. Last couple questions here with Korey Harris on Sports Spectrum. We haven't really talked about your faith, and this is the intersection of sports and faith. So let me just ask you one question about your faith. I know it's strong. Tell me about how the Lord has helped sustain you during all this craziness.
Man, I think the biggest thing for me is just remembering what he's already brought me through. And I'm a big proponent of like listening to your gut. Like, I think your gut is God's hiding place, the Holy Spirit, and how he speaks to you. Of course, the foundation is the word, you staying locked in and reading what the word says so that you know who you are in Christ. But in between those lines on the pages, there's a rhema word. There's a revelation that is like specific to you. And so you got to really be in tune to hear God when he is speaking, because he's always speaking. And so, through this trying time, he's never led me astray. Like I said, just the decision I had to make before I came back was solely based off my gut feeling. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but I had plenty of people who thought I was, dumb or senile or crazy for staying. So many messages, so many phone calls from people that I love and people that love me. Just, are you okay? Like, is everything good? And I know they mean well, but what they really wanted to say was probably something way more intense than that. Like, you must be out of your mind. But, anyone who knows me well knows that I'm going to, first of all, follow that before I follow any type of emotions or, just thoughts that come in, or even the media or the news and what I'm hearing. So, that's been huge, just remembering the things from my past that he brought me from. And only he can bring those things back to my remembrance at times, because sometimes we get locked in on what we in front of us. And so, your thought life and everything is clouded because your senses tend to override everything that, you've been through and what for sure. So that's been it, man. Just, hey, God, what am I supposed to see in this? What do you have for me? In the midst of this, what can I get better at? What can I improve on? What's your purpose? How can I continue to glorify you in the midst of this situation? So, when I was flying back, Kobe Bryant died, right? So yeah. I remember just being like super emotional on the plane, and I was like almost like hyperventilating because I was like a big Kobe Bryant fan growing up, and so my head's spinning. I can't really talk to anybody because I'm not with anyone on the flight. And so I just remember feeling so out of it. And the star player that I ran into when I got back to China, guess who his teammate was for his, 1 or 2 year career when he was in the NBA? It was Kobe Bryant. He played on the 2010 Lakers championship team. So that month with him was so therapeutic because I got the chance to talk with him about stories that they're not on YouTube. They're not on, any type of like article that's been written or whatever. It's just like this man's experience with Kobe. And so to sit down and talk with someone who could really like tell me how Kobe embodied certain things or, how he dealt with problems, it was like, okay, like I see you, God, like you're even giving me something to help me get through the thing that maybe like everybody is dealing with. Like, yeah, I was in China and people couldn't understand that at the time because the outbreak hadn't came to the States, but we were all dealing with, that great loss in the sports world. So like God was just making sure I was taken care of in every single way. But it just started with me listening to his voice and just being obedient, just stepping out in faith. So I apologize for being long winded, but that meant so much to me to like just have this crazy time be flipped into a time of enlightenment, discovery, experience, and also healing, for losing such a great person. Yeah.
I was on a plane myself, actually flying to the Super Bowl in Miami to cover it for the week when Kobe passed, and I found out on an airplane as well.
Wow.
It was very weird and surreal to be on a plane when all of that took place, and to think that was a couple months ago now. When we look back, it's just crazy. Korey, as we close here, just maybe offer some encouragement to those here listening in the States. We certainly got a lot of sports fans that listen to this show, Sports Spectrum, people who are of faith, Christians who love, or basketball fans or sports fans who love Jesus, I should say.
Right.
Encourage them, knowing that you're in China and you've kind of been through this and there was some light at the end of the tunnel where you are, because a lot of people they're hoping there's light at the end of the tunnel here, but when you're in the midst of it, it's really hard to see that. Encourage us.
Right. Man, the one thing I would tell anyone is to remember those who were in bondage, in the Word of God, like, the Hebrew slaves, right? And when there was darkness in Egypt, there was light in Goshen. That's something that's been ringing in my spirit throughout these, past 2-3 months. And I'm not trying to say that, one country is, dark or something like that, and there's light or whatever in another country, like God loves one region more than another. But what I am saying is, while there may be peril in the world, there may be tragedy, there may be sickness, disease, whatever things are going on, because there's more going on than just the virus. God is still on the throne, and his plans for us will not fail. But we have to be in line and in tune with those plans. And so for me, I just always feel like I can't lose. I always feel like I'm going to win. I always feel like, there's something for me in the midst of whatever I'm going through. And so, for all my people back in the States who are dealing with, just the fear and what they see being pumped through the media, or even what they're dealing with, outside their front doors, because it's a reality. You have to remember that God has not failed you. And he's not going to. He's not flipping the script and just saying, all right, I'm out. I'll be back at 6, or, I'll see you guys in a couple of months. Like, he's still involved. And the Holy Spirit is your ally. He's your best friend. And there's something that he wants to get across to you in this time. And so, you have something to contribute. You have something to give to the world. There's something that's in you during this time that's supposed to be birthed out of you. There's a skill or a gift that you've been sitting on and you haven't had the time to give, your energy towards it. Let's do that. Let's get on that. You know what I'm saying? Let's incubate right now. Let's come up with some new things that will impact and change all of us once we step out of this, right? I think some of the greatest innovations are going to come as a result of this time. Yeah. I think people are being forced to look at themselves in the mirror and ask themselves, what have I done with however much time I've been allotted here on God's earth? So whenever that happens and people have to become introspective, they usually come out stronger, right? So, we have the greatest gift, and that's the grace of God. That's empowerment that comes through Jesus Christ. So like I said, you can't lose. So take a hold of that. Identify with it, remind yourself of it, even when you see reports that don't line up with what you know from the Word of God. Say it out loud and just walk in faith, man. But seek action. Write down whatever you got to do in the morning and get after it, because once this is up, I'm telling you, it's going to be a great time in the world. It's going to be some crazy stuff, some great stuff that comes as a result of this time. So I want to be a part of it.
He is Korey Harris, assistant basketball coach under Stephon Marbury in the Chinese Basketball Association's Beijing Royal Fighters, and basketball picking back up, hopefully April 15th for the CBA in China, and hopefully that gives us some encouragement here in America that basketball will be back, as well as some other sports, and we can kind of get back to some sense of normalcy here soon. Korey, thanks so much for joining us, and I really appreciate your time and your heart, not only for the Lord, but for encouraging others. All the best to you. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you so much, Jason. Appreciate you, man.
And many thanks to Korey Harris for joining us here on Sports Spectrum. Korey, the assistant basketball coach for the Chinese Basketball Association's Beijing Royal Fighters. And interestingly enough, we taped this Tuesday, March 24th. It's now Thursday, March 26th, and we've already got some news that updates the interview that we taped on Tuesday with Korey. We talked about the CBA, the Chinese Basketball Association, resuming April 15th, which was good news for Korey and for everybody associated with that league getting back to normal. Well, when the Summer Olympics actually was postponed on the same day, March 24th, and moved back to 2021, the CBA reacted as well and announced that they would be postponing their resumption of their basketball league to May. We don't know more than that other than what Korey passed on to me. But because of the Tokyo Olympics being pushed back, apparently the CBA is now postponing resuming play until May. So just wanted to share that with you guys. Again, everything changes here. It seems like every day, not just in the sports world, but in the world with all that's going on. So we hope you're being safe. We hope you're practicing the social distancing that we all need to be practicing here to help level off this coronavirus, and we can all hopefully get back to some sense of normalcy going forward. But really, I just appreciate Korey for being here and sharing his heart for Jesus, his heart for basketball, and his heart for others on the sports spectrum. I want to encourage you to check out our website, sportspectrum.com. That's the home base for all of our content. And you can actually subscribe to our magazine there. This is a great time to order a magazine for someone who might be home and have more time to read than normal. And it's super cheap, the magazine. It's just $18 for a whole year, $18, and you get 4 issues plus a couple bonus issues. And it's a really great magazine. It's a high quality magazine. It's got great stories, and it's got devotionals in there from athletes, as well as a gospel message on the back of every magazine. You can order right now over at sportspectrum.com. Sportspectrum.com. Just click that magazine icon and you're good to go. You can actually call us too, toll free, if you wanted to order it that way. 866-821-2971 is our number. 866-821-2971, toll free, and subscribe to Sports Spectrum's magazine today. Thank you again so much for joining us here on the show. Be safe. We'll see you next time. My name is Jason Romano. Have a great rest of your day.